Chapter Whispers Over Breakfast. The breakfast buffet aboard the Kronos Company yacht was a hub of energy, filled with scientists, engineers, and field operatives preparing for the day ahead. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and tea mingled with the salty sea air drifting through the open windows. Miles moved through the line with unhurried precision, his plate slowly filling as he added toast, fruit, and scrambled eggs. Dressed in a crisp white shirt with his sleeves casually rolled up, Miles looked more like a gentleman on holiday than the legendary archaeologist who had captivated the world with his daring expeditions and best-selling books. Yet, even in this crowd of accomplished professionals, his presence commanded quiet attention. Anita Keaton noticed the subtle buzz surrounding him as she approached the coffee station. She was used to working alongside brilliant minds. She herself led the team developing the sphere's temporal navigation, but there was something about Miles that drew her in. Perhaps it was the air of mystery, or perhaps it was the way he carried himself, a man entirely at ease in any setting. Grabbing her coffee cup, she glanced at him as he poured tea. "I didn't think tea was still the drink of choice for adventurers." "You surprised me, Doctor." Shaw Miles glanced over, noting a tall, striking woman with flowing hair cascading over her shoulders. Her curvaceous figure, enhanced by fitted Kronos attire, was impossible to overlook, yet she carried her own plate of scrambled eggs and fruit with relaxed confidence. Miles, his piercing blue eyes locking onto hers with an amused glint. But tea isn't just a drink. It's tradition, civilization in a cup, and I find it pairs well with contemplation. Coffee, on the other hand?" He gestured to her cup. "Fuel for the relentless." Miles raised his cup in a mock toast. "Touché. Anita Keaton, if I'm not mistaken. I've heard your name more than once since I came aboard. Your work on the sphere is rather revolutionary." Her eyebrow arched slightly, impressed. "You've done your homework." "Only the basics," Miles replied, his tone light but respectful. "Though I confess temporal navigation is a bit beyond my realm. I'm more accustomed to deciphering ancient puzzles than bending space-time." Anita smirked, lifting her cup. "Not so different, really. Both require solving impossible problems under pressure." She set her cup down and leaned in slightly. "Most people think of time travel like a spaceship blasting forward, but the sphere doesn't actually move anywhere. It bends space-time around itself, stabilizing a wormhole to create a controlled jump point. My job is making sure we don't collapse the bridge mid-jump." Miles smirked, his teacup in hand. "No, but my problems tend to involve collapsing tunnels or the occasional venomous snake. Yours, I assume, are slightly more controlled." "Not always," Anita replied, her tone teasing. "We've had our fair share of late nights and unexpected malfunctions. Though, I'll admit, nothing quite as dramatic as venomous snakes. That's a level of chaos I'm happy to avoid." They moved to a nearby table by the windows, the shimmering ocean providing a calming backdrop to their conversation. Sitting across from her, Miles leaned back slightly, his relaxed posture a contrast to her poised efficiency. "So," he said, "what drives someone to dedicate themselves to building something as complex as the sphere? The challenge, the technology, or just sheer curiosity?" "Curiosity, mostly," Anita replied, her expression thoughtful. "There's something exhilarating about creating something that's never existed before. Knowing it might redefine what's possible, it keeps you going, even when the work is grueling." Miles nodded, genuinely impressed. "It's a rare thing, that kind of passion. Most people shy away from the unknown, but you seem to thrive in it." She met his gaze, her smile softening. "Coming from you, I'll take that as a compliment. After all, you've built a career chasing the unknown, haven't you? What's the secret to keeping that drive alive?" Miles took a sip of his tea, his tone reflective. "Curiosity, same as you. That and a healthy disregard for comfort. The world is too full of mysteries to sit still for long." Anita chuckled. "Comfort's overrated anyway." There was a brief pause as they both glanced out at the ocean, the conversation settling into a companionable rhythm. Finally, Anita leaned forward slightly, her tone casual but laced with subtle suggestion. "Speaking of curiosity, I've been running simulations on adjustments to the sphere's negative energy stabilization model. It's been tricky, one of those puzzles that keeps you up at night. If you're free later, I wouldn't mind a second set of eyes." "Hate to break it to you, Anita, but I'm not a quantum physicist. The most advanced math I do is making sure my bar tab doesn't exceed my bank balance. Anita arched a brow, unimpressed but entertained. Good thing I'm not looking for a physicist. I need someone who thinks differently, someone who doesn't see the answer in equations but in possibilities. She took a sip of her drink, eyes glinting. You qualify. Miles exhaled through his nose, tilting his glass slightly. You sure? I tend to solve problems with running, climbing, and occasionally jumping off things. Anita smirked. And yet, you always land on your feet. Miles took a slow sip, letting the thought settle. All right, you win. 8 o'clock? Anita lifted her glass in a silent toast. Don't be late! Rather than respond immediately, Anita closed the distance between them. She leaned in, her breath warm against his ear, a soft note of her perfume grazing his senses. She winked. I'd prefer my cabin, she whispered, her voice low and unmistakably inviting. Miles felt a slow, wry smile tug at his lips. Absolutely, Ms. Keaton, he said, his British accent lending the words a velvety air. I shall look forward to it. Then, with a final knowing glance, Anita straightened and slipped away, leaving the lingering trace of her scent and the promise of an intriguing evening to stir Miles's thoughts. After a long day of back-to-back meetings in the office with Kira and the team, Miles finally found a moment to breathe. The hours had been productive but intense, with each new task demanding his full attention. That subtle tension lingered as evening fell, the vessel's corridors growing quieter while the hum of its engines remained constant beneath the deck. Freshly showered and his mind still buzzing with details from the day, Miles made his way toward Anita's cabin suite on the 11th floor, the overhead lights casting soft, elongated shadows on the walls. Miles paused outside Anita's cabin suite, the soft glow of the corridor lights reflecting on his composed features. He drew a breath and rang the bell. Within moments, the door swung open to reveal Anita in a fitted robe, her hair tumbling freely past her shoulders. Before he could offer a greeting, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, her lips finding his in a swift, heated kiss. Their trays of professional detachment and polite conversation vanished at once, replaced by an urgency neither felt the need to restrain. They stumbled inside, and Miles quietly shut the door behind them. As they continued kissing, clothing fell away piece by piece. His shirt, her robe, until Anita's delicate bra was pressed against his chest, the shape of her beautiful, full breasts evident in the moonlit cabin. The distant sound of waves crashing against the yacht drifted through the slightly open window, the silver glow of the full moon illuminating the bed just a few steps away. Without breaking contact, they made their way across the cabin, leaving a trail of discarded garments behind. By the time they reached the bed, they were both fully undressed, and Miles guided Anita gently onto the sheets. The open window framed the vast ocean beyond, moonlight dancing across the water as if adding its own rhythm to their fervent embrace. Their breaths came in soft gasps and murmurs of each other's names as they moved together in a slow, unhurried rhythm. At one point, Anita let out a blissful sigh, her voice tremulous with pleasure. I have to say, British sex never fails to impress. A wicked grin tugged at Miles's lips. I'll be sure to pass that on to His Majesty, he teased, bending down to kiss her breast. Though I suspect he might be rather astonished by the details. Anita let out a breathy laugh, her fingers threading through his hair. Just keep doing what you're doing, Doctor. Shaw. The moonlit ocean provided a serene backdrop to their passionate moment, the night itself seeming to hush in reverence. And as their voices and laughter filled the cabin, they both surrendered to a shared, unspoken promise that this was only the beginning of their story together.